with the Crane Pirates baseball team. Coaches, tell us who you are and introduce yourselves.
Bryan, Harmon, head coach.
Clay Stumpff, assistant.
Tyler Martin, other assistant.
All right, and coaches, as we now going into the spring of 2018 season, we have some questions to talk to you guys about. First question is, what is the main objective that you guys have going into this 2019 spring season?
The main objective is to be playing our best baseball at the end of the season. So that means, improvement every day. I haven't talked to the kids much about it, but I try to get. I did some reading this summer this winter a lot about the 1% factor. If you can get 1% better every day in the course of a season, you've really improved a lot. So we get the postseason. We want to be playing our best baseball, and we want to be that dangerous team that nobody wants to play.
I know hitting-wise, we're really focused on hitting the ball hard and hit it up the middle, and focusing on dealing with failure. A lot of our guys were going through growing pains and stuff over the fall, and they'd want to strike out and put their heads down, so we're trying to take that out and hopefully become more successful hitters.
Team as a whole, I'd say in the fall we definitely exceeded expectations that other people had for us, and sometimes even ourselves. I think if we build on that and even exceed what we did in the fall and the spring, we'll be a tough team to play, tough team to beat.
Definitely those objectives that do come into play. As we looked at from last fall season, this team was the runner-ups in the SWCL tournament. And now, let me ask this question, guys. Does that also kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth, being runner-up in back-to-back years? Start off with head coach Harmon. We'll go to Coach Martin and Coach Stumpff.
Yeah, it definitely does. We're in it to win, and getting to the championship's great. But if you don't win it, then there's a bittersweet feeling at the end of your season. Coming out with a loss in the last two falls has not been ideal. It's great to get a young team to that championship, but we felt like we could have maybe gotten over the hump. We just got to continue to work and push. You mentioned SWCL second place. Right now we're sitting at tie for second place in the conference with the fall record of 5-2, Purdy at 7-0. So we're 2 games out to start the spring. So we've got some winning to do, and we're actually going to have to get some help to get back in it.
Back to the fall, kind of like Coach Harmon said, it's never nice. You don't want to lose your last game. Only one team gets to win, except for third place, I guess. But at the same time, that's definitely one to win. That's no disrespect to Purdy, good team. But at the same time, I think they beat us twice, but we played them close. Both games we played them. So work on some things, maybe try and get back at them.
Yeah, you never like to lose, but I think it was good for those young guys to know that, hey, we worked hard and we got there, but there's a little bit more work that we need to do. So I think in the spring we're a little bit more hungry than we were in the fall.
Definitely hungry you guys are in this spring. And now what you guys have separate roles that happen on this ball field. Even though, Coach Harmon, you're the head coach and these are 2 assistants, what are your roles as coaches that you do to help demonstrate, what are some kind of bodies of the game of baseball that you guys teach when you're coaching?
So I doing all the pitching for high school as well as the outfield, and then I'm also splitting my time, spend some time with the junior high too, so I won't be here as much, but still definitely every chance I can here too. So
yeah, and then I focus on hitting, make sure guys are on time and getting their prep done on the on-deck circle in games, and then I also do infield and make sure we're making plays.
That leaves me to mostly focus on the game plan of each game and the managerial type duties. But we all work together. We have conversations about our lineups and things like that, and these guys have input. Obviously, as the head coach, the final say is going to be mine. But I listen to these guys, and we just work together on that. And I guess some of the skills that are left after what they've talked about, is some bunting and base running. And honestly, we haven't gotten to work on the base running as much because we haven't been on the field as often as we'd like. But I feel like we've got some good kids with good base running instincts, and hopefully we can touch those up, and hopefully we'll be in good shape there.
Now, as we move on to the fundamentals conversation that we start off is, what are the fundamentals that you guys teach of the game of baseball throughout this 2019 spring season? Start off with assistant coach Clay Stumpff.
Hitting-wise, I make sure we're just swinging hard, trying to get the inside part of the baseball, and I try to make sure that we have universal swings. If somebody tries to pitch us inside, we can still hit that. If someone pitches us outside, we can hit that. We've really tried to focus on our outside hitting a lot this spring because that was a big weakness for us in the fall. defensively on the infield, I just really have them focus on attacking the baseball and not sitting back and let it attack you. And that's about it.
When it comes to our pitching, we're kind of in a weird spot to where, a good portion of our starting pitchers are young kids, so you're still developing things with them, particularly mechanically. I think we're all pretty sound, but just finding new pitches and getting to spot up new pitches. But just because we're young, they're all talented enough where it's kind of a sticky spot to where they still need to compete like they're 18 years old. But then again, they're still learning as we go. And outfield, I think outfields were very, very athletic. We made some tough plays. I think focus for me going forward is we threw some guys out in the fall, but they took some extra bases on that they maybe shouldn't have, and kind of cut down those extra bases, maybe throw some more guys out.
Fundamentals, a lot of people use the term working on the little things, and to me, I try not to use that because to me, nothing's little. If it's a little thing, it's that it signifies it's not as important as everything else. So we just want to be well-rounded baseball players. We want to be good athletes, and if you're a good athlete, you can adjust any kind of fundamentals. And these guys do a great job with working on swing mechanics, pitch mechanics, defensive, and we just got to be loose and be athletic and do things the right way.
Also, another thing to talk about is some of your players have played basketball this winter, which was Isaiah Smith, Bryson Brandstetter, Jacob McKnight. That list goes on and on. Does that help with the mentality? Does it help with the speed during the baseball season?
I think it definitely does. And the one thing, our basketball team had a great season. They're 24-4, state ranked all year. And I think as much as anything, it helps with the competitiveness. Those guys come in with a competitive attitude, and we hope they bring that attitude to the rest of the guys. And that's one thing we don't have to worry about a lot. Is all of our guys are competitive guys. They want to win. Sometimes getting over the hump of doing what it takes to win is a little harder than the wanting to win. But the competitiveness they bring, and then the physical conditioning. We did a run, and the guys that had played basketball, obviously some of them that didn't do as well in the fall did better this spring on the run we went on, and a lot of that's the conditioning that goes along with basketball.
Yeah, kind of like what he said. I feel like with us having more stamina and stuff, we'll last on the mound a little bit longer. If we ever go into extra inning games, we'll be there. We won't get winded. And then, another thing, like he said, is the competitiveness. Bringing that mental toughness into those tough games. They pulled out a lot of tough games in the basketball season, so I think that brings it along with baseball too, and we can pull out some tough games this spring.
I'm kind of gonna double up on something they said first. Is the competitiveness for me? I think is the biggest aspect. It keeps them doing something all the time to where they're not being lazy in the winter, and even our kids that don't play, they're working out and training still, but they're playing a sport. It gives them some of a break from baseball, but then they're still staying athletic, getting different movements that you wouldn't see on the baseball field, but still makes them stronger, a little more athletic, and helps them out at the same time.
Another question that is we have to talk about, going on to this same topic as baseball, is what are the expectations that you guys have set for each and every game, whether it's the first game of the season, which will be on Saturday, May 16th. You guys will take on Reed Spring and Gainesville. A little bit of a jamboree Saturday, or it's the last game of your season in districts. What's going to be the expectations that you're going to be having, or that you're going to be setting for all your players each and every game this season? Start off with assistant coach Tyler Martin.
Kind of like I said earlier, I feel like we exceeded some people's expectations in the fall, and my goal is just to improve on that. And then at the end of the season, we just want to be that team you don't want to play. Not that you want to be pesky, but you do. I don't think we're going to be a team where everyone says we're impossible to beat. But we want to be that team that gets at you no matter who you are. We have a chance to beat you, and those are the teams come playoff time that there's have to beat.
Yeah, I want our guys to stay tough all year. I want them to, when the mistakes happen, don't let them snowball. I feel like in the fall that happened quite a bit, and I know there was a Conway game where we really snowballed at the end and we let that one go. I want to make sure that we handle all that stuff well and we don't have any snowballs this spring. I
want to take offense to one thing you said there. Final game of the season in the district. We really hope that's not our final game in the season. That's everybody's goal. Going in, if you think you're going to not win the district, then you're not playing for the right reasons. But we hope it's to get beyond the district. But it's like that's a great question there, because you said whether it's the first game or the final game of the season, we have to have the same mentality going into every game. We go in with the mentality to try to win it. We may coach different games differently based on how many games we have that week and the way we manage our pitching staff and stuff like that. But we're going to do all we can to be competitive in every game, and we just want to, I was telling the guys today, in the 13 years that I've been head coach, we've played Reed Spring most of those years, and we've never beaten them. But Coach Funk always says, man, I love playing you guys, but I hate playing you guys by the fact that a lot of times we play them really tough, and he comes out of that, feeling like he's had to squeak one out. So, and then Gainesville, former player of mine is the assistant coach there, Jacob Smith, and it's going to be. He's going to come in there. Everybody, and it's nothing malicious or anything. Everybody wants to knock off their old head coach. They want to beat him, and I want to beat him because he's a former player of mine, and he's got some family members that might not let me hear the end of it if he beats me. So that's something I don't want to happen too.
Those family members, and that's me. That's one of the family members of assistant coach Jacob Smith there at Gainesville, and that's going to be a team that Crane's going to be playing, and excuse me, and what we see going into this game or into this season, we asked this question. We could ask this question that will happen for next season, but now we move on to this season. Will this be a rebuilding year? Is it going to be a year where you guys make adjustments, or will it be a repeat of last year? Start off with assistant coach Clay Stumpff.
I definitely think we'll make adjustments. I feel like you make adjustments all season, but I don't think it's a rebuilding year at all. I mean, we expect our guys to go out there and we expect to win a majority of the games that we play. But yeah, other than that, I feel like we're going to be really competitive, and I don't think it's a rebuilding year at all, in my opinion.
I really can't disagree with anything. I think based on age, people kind of label us as, they're young, they'll be better next year. There's no reason to think that. I think we were very competitive in the fall. We're a very, very good team. Just because we have young kids doesn't mean they can't play. They're all very athletic, very good players. So I think we push every game, try and win every game. No matter who you play, if you don't win, if you're disappointed, there's really no excuse based on how experienced you are.
And I've got to agree with what those guys said. Winning is important to us. Winning is what we're here for. And if we chalked it up as a rebuilding year, if we told our kids, hey, we're rebuilding this year, that's an insult to our seniors, because we got 2 seniors that want to go out and compete for us. And if all they heard all year was, that we're rebuilding, well, why are they bothering with me? So, those 2 seniors, one of them's been around with us for a long time. He's a great leader. The other one's coming back to baseball after a couple years off. And, we just have to continue to make them work. And rebuild's kind of a bad word in the game of baseball, because you want to try to be good every year.
Rebuilding is a bad word to say in baseball. It's that bad R word that players don't want to hear, or teams don't want to hear, especially Major League Baseball teams. Because there are some teams, even at the major league level, that do rebuild. And now back to this, back to high school baseball, is what is the Crane way that is so unique to other teams? Say it's unique to Clever, it's unique to Ozark, Republic, Nixa, West Plains, Joplin, Purdy. What's the Crane way that you guys preach and teach your players each and every practice, each and every game?
I think one thing we've always been known for is that we never really give up. We're always there. We always close the gap towards the end of the game, and we're a hard team to put away. And I think another thing, too, is our dugout. Our dugout's a staple of ours. We try to be loud. We try to be annoying every now and then, but I think that's definitely some staples that Crane Baseball has.
Kind of goes along with that. This thing, I don't know if it's something that we directly teach, but I think it's more of a culture. Is I didn't play here, and we were pretty good when I played, but every time we played Crane, we knew they were going to play us within a couple runs at least. No matter how good we were, no matter how bad we were, it seemed like no matter how good, you couldn't blow them out. And that goes for every year. Every year I remember, they're always that team. They're going to hang with you. No matter what, they're going to fight to the end. I think these kids do the same thing. I think it's more of a culture that goes on here as opposed to something that we directly teach. There's all competitive kids. So.
Yeah, I agree 100% there. It's a culture, but I think that culture also is, a lot of times the the identity of a team is the identity of their coaching staff. And, I'm not trying to make myself sound good here. I'm just saying that with the assistant coaches that I have and with what we challenge them to do every day, the culture has become the way we feel is we're never out of a game. And that somehow the kids, they sense that in us and they buy into that. And, it's not something we even really have to say much. They just know it.
A couple more questions to talk about in this preseason roundtable that we have going on today is another question is who are going to be some key components, key players, some deadly weapons that you guys have that Crane baseball fans want to come out and watch, or even high school baseball fans that want to come out to Crane and watch? Who are some players that you think are going to be a key weapon, a deadly weapon that's going to be out on the ball field? Start off with assistant coach Tyler Martin.
This one's tough because I think the 9 kids, 10 to the age that we put out, we're all very, very similar. When it comes to pitching, I was telling the other day, out of our 4 starters, or our penciled in starters at this point, they all throw very similar everything they do. We don't really have one that's head over heels above the rest. We don't have one that's way below. We just have 3 or 4 guys that are going to come compete every day. And on the best day, they're all the same. The worst day, they're all the same. Just kind of, we don't really have a definite guy that says, you can't hit him, but you can hit everybody else. And that's nothing against our guys. It's just that we have so many that are competitive baseball players that we don't really have any guys to be better than, per se.
Right. Yeah, a lot what he said. I feel like when you watch Crane play, we're going to be really fundamental in the infield, and we're really fundamental in the outfield. I feel like 1 through 9 in our lineup, we're going to have somebody have a good game every night, and it may not be the same guy every night, but I feel like we have 1 or 2 guys that will produce every single game at least.
Yeah, I have to agree with what both of those guys said. Before either one of them spoke, I was thinking, we don't have that guy that everybody looks at and says, oh, that's Crane's all-stater, or that's Crane's stud. But we've got a lot of guys that they say, oh, man, this guy's good. Oh, here comes the next guy. He's good. It's just, baseball's different than every other game. Football, you can hand off to your same running back over and over. You can throw the same wide receiver. Basketball, you can go to your best scorer over. Baseball, you got to take your turn to bat. You've got to take your turn in the field. You never know when it's coming to you, so you got to expect it every time. And the one time you're not ready, it's going to find you. Or if you get shoved into a position you're out of position, it's going to find you. And our guys just have to step up when it's their turn.
One player that we want to watch out for in this Crane team is going to be definitely watch for Chase Conrad on the field. He is definitely a speedster from what I've seen from this past fall. Once you get on base, it is a headache to get that guy out on the base pass. And I don't know, is it something special, or does he work on his speed day in and day out, whether you guys are at practice or not? What goes through his mind to either steal a bag or just to get on base each and every game?
Well, speed's one thing. They say you can't teach speed, but you can make it better. You can make it faster. When Coach Colton Vaught was here with us, he worked with Chase some, and he worked with all of our kids about getting better jumps, better leads, and things like that. So it's a lot of chases, and then there's a lot of our other base runners. We have some good base runners. A lot of it's natural ability, but if you don't work at it, your natural ability doesn't show through. So it's we always pride ourselves on trying to run the bases well. We'll make some mistakes, but if we're making the mistakes being aggressive, I can handle that. If we're making mistakes being timid, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
With him, he's just a hard worker. I feel like a lot of the guys around him help push him to be better. And, even though he might be one of the fastest ones, a lot of the guys may say that they are, and that pushes him. I know the upperclassmen have been real good about, leading the way and showing him how to do things right and be competitive.
I think it's Chase and then several other guys too. But you can tell they're just baseball players, and they've played so many baseball games. It's not just running. It's knowing when to run, how to run, and just knowing situations and knowing your surroundings. I think him and so many others do well just because they've played so much baseball.
As we now talk about this season today, or about this season coming up, it's going to be 2 days before opening day. And what we kind of call a little bit is we kind of rip the page out of the MLB playbook, and we call your practices before the first game spring training. And what we've seen during the spring training is I've seen, just out of the very first day, seen a lot of good things. I've seen a lot of good pitching coming from some good pitchers. I've seen lots of speed. I've seen a lot of good hitting, and that is a huge factor. And what's going to be the big words that you're going to be lecturing in your clubhouse to bring a win? Start off with assistant coach Clay Stumpff.
Just to really just to play hard and move on to the next one. We say that a lot, whether it's a bat at bat or an error or, we left a pitch high. It's always move on to the next one and just focus on our next task at hand.
Pretty similar. I mean, we kind of have to, you want to learn from your mistakes, but at the same time, you kind of have to live in the moment. You can't go back and fix what you did yesterday. It's done. Work hard today. Strike out, next at bat, do what you can then. Really, just like what Coach Stumpff said, just making adjustments to playing hard, competing, and just not giving up.
I feel like consistency is always the key too. You mentioned major leagues. Every major league team, they play 162 games. Every team's going to win 50 games. They're going to lose 50 games. It's what they do with those other 62 that makes them a winner or not. That 62 games is different. In high school, it's way different than that. We have some weeks where we may play 5 games in 4 days, but we may have a week where we only have 2 games or 1 game. This week we have 2, and then we don't play till the following Thursday. So consistency, I think, is the key. The difference between us and major leagues is we'll play Saturday, and then it's like spring training starts back up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we play again Thursday. So it's just trying to be consistent when there's breaks. I feel like with the fall, at 14-8 with the youth we had a decent fall, but we had about a 3 or 4 game stretch there that included the Seymour tournament where we did not play well at all. The game going into that, and then the first 2 games of the Seymour tournament we didn't play well. You take that 3 game stretch out and you look 14-5 sounds a lot better than 14-8. You win 2 of those 3, you're 16 wins. And it's just getting that consistency. We've built a schedule that's tough, and we do that for a reason. A week from this Saturday, we've got, if you look at the preseason rankings, we've got number 2 and number 6, I believe, coming in, or 2 and 7 somewhere in Russellville and Lincoln. And we do that on purpose. We want to challenge our kids. I'm not saying we're going to go in there and get beat by both of them. We're going to do our best to compete in those games, but if we don't beat those teams, we're going to learn something from it. And if we do beat those teams, it's a huge deal for us.
Looking at that schedule and what's going to come on at about next Friday, you guys are going to see a team come out of the Sooner State of Oklahoma. How Oklahoma is what we heard. And with this Crane team, you guys play a team out of the Sooner State. You guys are undefeated when you guys play a team that comes out of Oklahoma. And you guys played Cheyenne, Oklahoma, walked off against them. Then you have to wind the clock all the way back to about 2009, 2010, where you guys played Ripley, Oklahoma, had a walk-off home run. And do you guys think you'll see another walk-off come up against Howe, Oklahoma?
Well, you hope not. You hope you can put them away and not have to walk off. But if we can walk off and turn dramatic, that's a good point. The last 2 times we've played Oklahoma teams, we have walked off with wins. I think that one was a sac fly, and like you said, the other was a home run. Talked to Coach Saki, is his name, from Howe, and this was a week ago Tuesday, and I asked how he was going to be, and he said, well, we lost last night. So a week ago Monday, they were already playing games. So by the time they come to town, we should have 3 games under our belt, and they'll probably have 8 to 10 games under their belt. So he says, I almost feel like they're going to be a mirror of us, because he said he's really young. He's going to have a lot of sophomores on the field. He said, but he feels like he's got a talented group, and he's coming in. He's coming in that Thursday, the day before we play him. They're going to play Billings, and they're going to play us on Friday. And last I knew, he was looking for a couple teams to play on Saturday. I don't know if he got that scheduled or not, but it's going to be fun. It's always nice to get out and play different teams. Like I mentioned, Russellville and Lincoln, not from our area. We've added some other teams. We've brought Charleston up last year. We got Howe, Oklahoma. Cheyenne's coming back again in the fall. And we just try to build that. I think Charleston may come back again next spring, and maybe even a friend of mine, Dave Riley, coaches at Holden, who was a Class 3 Final Four team last year, and trying to get him to come down and play us whenever we play Charleston. We just, that I've got to speak up for the Missouri Baseball Coaches Association. That has been where I have made a lot of connections with other coaches, to where not only do you get to play other schools, but if you play someone, last year we played New Bloomfield. Well, I could call other coaches that otherwise I wouldn't have known, and they could give me some scouting reports and things like that. So we try to get out of our area, try to build our schedule. We've added some Class 4s. We play every class but Class 5. I just couldn't get any of those on our schedule. But, and then with the powerhouse at New Covenant jumping up to Class 3, and, that just adds another Class 3. And then Hartville jumps to Class 3, Marionville Class 3. It just makes our schedule that much tougher.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I hope it doesn't go to a walk-off either. I just want us to play our way, play our game, and then go from there and see what happens, take our chances.
When it comes to them specifically, I don't know much about them. I mean, we'll know more come first game. We can kind of look at the record and stuff like that. But I think I think games like that are fun because it's cool for the kids to play somebody they're not used to playing. They hear this team, they're coming from Oklahoma. It's no matter how good or bad that team is, it's always kind of a big deal. And I think the kids enjoy it. It's fun for us. It's fun for fans. I think it's always a fun game to play, no matter what.
Definitely is a fun game to see when this team plays or another team plays a team from out of state. And out of state baseball is a lot different than baseball here in Missouri. It's different in Arkansas, different in Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Illinois, you name it. And what is the difference that you guys have seen between Oklahoma baseball and Missouri baseball?
Biggest thing that I see, they get to start playing so much earlier than us. They come back from Christmas break and they start practicing. And then when we played Cheyenne in the fall, that was our second game. Yeah, we had played Hartville the night before. Cheyenne was our second game, maybe. No, we had played a couple games. We were on our third or fourth game, and Cheyenne had played 12 or 13 already. So that's the big difference is how early they get to start. The fact that their fall, people look at our fall and we take it serious. It's conference play and everything, but they play a state tournament in the fall as well. They play a fall one and a spring one. So it's just a different. It's not. I won't say it's a different level. It's just a different style of baseball, and it's always fun to hook up with those guys.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see how early they start, and they're almost in mid-season form by the time they play us. And I'm a little jealous they get those 2 state tournaments. I wish we had that too. So they're pretty lucky over there with what they got.
Yeah, kind of same thing. I mean, I can't speak, in general. I know the teams that I've coached against out of Oklahoma, they always seem solid. They're pretty solid. Best team I've ever coached against was South Oklahoma. And I think the big part of it is they get to play so many games. Just like they said, it's so many more bats under their belt, so many more innings pitched, just so many more reps that they've had more time to kind of get their kinks figured out. It seems like every time.
Another question that we have to talk about is what is one word that describes this team, that describes the Crane Pirates? What is one word that you would say describes this Crane Pirates team coming into the spring of 2019?
I would hope that word would be tough. Just not tough to play against, but that we are tough kids and we are more mentally and as well as physically tough.
Yeah, hopefully it's consistency. I hope that's the one that we can bring to the table.
I've said it in probably 2 or 3 times. The kind of all wrapped up into this is, this is my first spring here. I was in the fall, but I think coaching against whatever is if we could just continue to be pesky. I think that's kind of what we've always done well, and hopefully we can continue that.
This Pirates team has been pesky, especially throughout the fall. And if you look at the games that they've been pesky against Purdy, they've been pesky against Galena, Billings, Licking, Cheyenne, Oklahoma, you name it. They've been pesky. And another thing that we talk about is what are you guys going to be expecting from your conference as well as all 5 of the classes come spring of 2019?
As far as our conference, I say it every year, and I say it because I believe it, not because I want it to be true, but our conference, I'll put it up there with any Class 2 conference in the state, is competitive. It's been a while since we've had teams from our conference get the Final Four, but we've had a lot of teams in our conference at one time or another get to the Final Four. I was around in high school when Crane went to the first Final Four. I was around just kind of helping out as just a tag-along scorekeeper, basically, when I was in college. The last 2 times they went to Final Four, Coach Stumpff played his junior year. We got to 1 game from the Final Four. my last year as an assistant coach, Coach Conrad's last year as head coach, we were one game from the Final Four. Coach Martin played in 2 Final Fours at Clever, and all of that's conference. I'm talking about just a few schools, but Billings has been to several Final Fours. Purdy's gotten to several quarterfinals. Southwest has played in some sectionals. I know Coach Martin even played in a sectional against Southwest his junior year, I believe it was.
And Purdy.
And Purdy several times. And, Galena's got a state championship under their belt. Sparta has a state championship and another Final Four. Spokane was the first team in the conference ever to go to the Final Four, and that was back in 1982. So Blue Eye's been to several quarterfinals. They've never made it to a Final Four, but they've gotten close. I hope I'm not skipping over anybody, but I think I've mentioned everybody. But Clever used to be in the conference, and they've been to Final Fours. Forsyth went to Final Fours. Hollister used to be in the conference. Final Four. You keep saying that word Final Four, but I put our conference up against any. As far as the classes around the state, Missouri, Southwest Missouri is tough. You got Aurora in Class 4 is number 1 in the state. You got Stratford in Class 3, number 1 in the state. You got Mansfield in Class 2, top 3 in the state. Class 1, there's not as many Class 1 teams in the area, but, Walnut Grove went to a Final Four last year. Halfway gets close to all classes, Class 5, Willard's up there, Kickapoo's up there. Next, it's just, we're just loaded, Former assistant coach here, Coach Davis at Willard, he's helped that program that was already great become even a higher level. Southwest Missouri baseball is as good as it gets. There's St. Louis will claim that they have the best area worth of baseball. Well, they've got a lot more schools in their area than we do, but I'll put our guys up against theirs, which happens a lot of times.
Yeah, it's funny when you look at the schedule, you always circle games, and regardless of class or conference, we circle a lot of the teams in our conference, without even thinking about it. Everybody in our conference is really competitive. It's if you win this conference, you have to earn it. And that's the fun thing, I think, that's about this conference.
Yeah, a couple of like Coach Harmon was saying, I feel like for the SWCL, it's kind of an older conference, and there's so much kind of history here. It's been around forever, and there's always those teams. It seems like every single year there is a couple competitive teams in it. Always has been. I think there always will be. When it comes to this year, I think it's tough because there's every team in it, I think, is a very solid team. I don't think there's a ton of conferences where you can say, oh, their 8 seed's pretty good. I think there's nobody in our conference that's just way behind everybody else. I think it's just everyone in there it's not an easy win. It's a good conference overall.
Not an easy win it is. And what we break down in the state of Missouri is you see the schools up in Kansas City, you see the schools in St. Louis, you see the schools down here around Springfield, Joplin, Branson area, as well as you go down over to Cape Girardeau, the Boot Heel, and the schools up in Columbia and Jefferson City. This state is very competitive, and what we mentioned is this team will be playing a couple teams up from mid-Missouri, and from what you guys seen in mid-Missouri, what is so different about mid-Missouri as opposed to baseball here in Southwest Missouri?
Every year I go up and try to watch as many Final Four games as I can of all classes, and that's a good question because every area kind of has its style. I feel like St. Louis has the hitters, Kansas City has hitters, and a lot of that goes with the big school. They're just deeper. I think our area is pretty pitching rich. Like Coach Martin said earlier, we don't have one pitcher that's head and shoulders above the rest of our pitchers, but we've got a lot of good pitchers. But you look at, mention Aurora again, Wyatt Sparks got drafted last year. They've got a senior this year Singer that's going to get drafted as well, I think, probably higher than Sparks did, and that's not any knock on Sparks. It's just that you go out most nights here, whoever you're playing, they're gonna have a pretty good arm on the mound, and like Coach Martin said about our conference, everybody can compete. Well, everybody in our conference, I feel like, has one pitcher at least that you go up there and think we got to have our best game today to be able to hang with him, and then everybody's got some pitching depth like we do. I think we have as good a depth as anybody, but our 1 through 4, like Coach Martin said, penciled in starters are pretty equal, and I just feel like this area is known for low scoring pitching heavy games.
Yeah, I agree with that too. As me doing hitting and stuff, it makes my job pretty hard because there's a good arm every night. It seems like every time we play anybody, especially in our conference, we see a good arm on the mound, and then they always have another one to bring in that gives us fits. We're pesky, and I feel like there's a lot of pesky teams down in our area too.
Really can't disagree with either one. I think everyone here throws well when it comes up to the Central Missouri teams, like you talked about. And I don't have a ton of experience. I could be totally inaccurate, but every game I've played against them or coached against them or whatever, it seems like they always have very hard throwers. Mm-hmm. It seems like here we have guys who maybe more so pitch, and they always have someone who throws hard. Russell had a kid a long time ago, last name Wolf, threw low 90s. It seems like every time you go up there, they have a kid, maybe the hardest kid you've seen throw that year, it seems like.
One Wolf that we also have mentioned comes out of Clever is Chance Wolf, who's thrown, I believe he hit 90s here at Crane, and we believe he homered in that game here against Crane. And what we've seen...
Hey, this is a Crane Roundtable. Enough of that.
Okay. So, yeah, definitely one thing that comes into mind. Doesn't matter if he's throwing mid-70s or he's throwing upper 80s to 90. What is it that you guys preach your players? Is it the same when it comes to a different style of or different speed of pitches? What is it that makes this team so scrappy? Is it same thing that happens whether you're facing a kid who's throwing upper 80s to 90s or he's down in the 70s?
I feel like part of our scrappiness comes from, and this is something, it's good, but I would also like it not necessarily be the case sometimes. Our at-bats get better as the game goes along. I would like for sometimes our at-bats to start out strong and then get better. Sometimes it's a feeling out process. Well, you get a real good arm on the mound, and you're feeling them out, and next thing you know, it's the fourth inning, and we haven't scored yet, and we're just on our second time through. But I feel like that's what our hitters are good at is reading what's there and getting better with each at-bat, and that's important. And that's something that we've instituted a new type BP, and I think that's going to help us. And because they're jumping from one side of the cage to the other side of the cage, seeing two completely different styles, and I think that's going to help us a lot. And Coach Stumpff has worked them hard as far as on their timing and on their loads and on the knowing what pitcher and when to load and things like that. And I think that's going to go a long way for us.
Yeah, one thing we preach is just being on time. We can keep our load consistent and we can keep our swing speed consistent, but we just got to worry about our timing. I feel like if we can just be on time and know when to be on time, we'll be successful hitters.
I agree with what Coach Stumpff said. You have, it seems like it's always the younger guys. They see a harder thrower, they think they have to swing harder. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. It's all about timing.
Before we let you guys go, we got to talk about that social media that you guys have that goes on for you guys, for your fans to keep up to date, and also to keep up to date with our social media. What are the links that your fans can follow for Crane Baseball?
Well, I run the Twitter account. It's at Crane_coach. I'm not a Facebook guy, so I don't do that. I try to get schedule changes out there, and you can also follow Crane_athletics, and the schedule changes and game times, rainouts, all the crazy stuff that happens in spring baseball, and try to get that all out on my Crane Coach Twitter, and then sometimes you'll see some entertaining interactions between me and some other coaches, and we're all when it comes down to it, we're all friends and we're joking around with each other, making fun. But when it comes down to it, we're competitors and we want to beat each other no matter how good of friends we are.
Yeah, and then I do the Facebook page, just Crane Pirates Baseball. If you don't have a Twitter, I basically just put what Coach Harmon puts on Twitter and put it on Facebook.
Well, I can say I have a Facebook, I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram. I haven't made a Facebook status, tweeted, or Instagrammed in probably, whatever how you say that, in probably 3 years. So I'm not your guy if you want social media updates for Pirate Baseball.
All right, that'll wrap up our show for today. We hope you enjoyed our show. We hope you enjoyed us sitting down with the three coaches of the Crane Pirates baseball team. If you want to stay connected with the Crane Pirates through their social media, be sure to like them on Facebook. Also follow them on Twitter. Their Twitter is at Crane_coach. Once again, it's Crane_coach on Twitter. Also check out their website. Their website is at crane.k12.mo.us. If you'd like to stay connected with Ozark Sports Report through our social media, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and check out our website. Our website is ozarksportsreport.wixsite.com/Ozark Sports Report. As we wrap up the show, we would like to wish good luck to these Crane Pirates team. You'll be seeing these Crane Pirates a lot on our YouTube channel. We will be live streaming every single game for this Crane Pirates team. One final time as we let go, once again, I want to thank the coaches from the Crane Pirates baseball team for sitting down with us to talk about the season that will come up in this 2019 season. I'm Adam Smith from the Ozark Sports Report saying, have a good day, everybody.